Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be listening to, or not listening, but really watching. Oh my gosh. Today we're going to be watching the final part of No Direction Home. And as I shared with you earlier, we do have to go back to part A, which is not a problem. You know, it's fun. I do want to see part A again. So we're going to watch part E and then, yeah, then we'll like circle back to part A and then we'll watch Don't Look Back. I think that's how we're going to have to do it. I think. Cool. And then after we're done with this, you know, we're on to the next album. Okay, enough. Let's jump into it.
He was doing more and more prose writing, I think, at the
Ooh. Okay.
he was doing more and more prose writing, I think, at the time too. I think he was spending more time actually sitting down writing stuff that he wasn't necessarily going to sing, and then finding out that some of that could be sung as well.
Of war and peace, the truth just twists. Its curfew go just glides. Upon four-legged forest clouds, the cowboy angel rides.
The ideal performances of the songs would then come on stages throughout the world. Very few could be found on any of my records. Every second, reaching the audience is what it's all about.
All except beneath the trees of Eden. Cowboy angel rides.
The ideal performances of the songs would then come on stages throughout the world. Very few could be found on any of my records. Every second, reaching the audience is what it's all about.
All except beneath the trees of Eden.
There are no veils, curtains, doors, walls, anything between what pours out of Bob's hand onto the page and what is somehow available to the core of people who are believers in him. There's some people that, not interested. But if you're interested, he goes way, way deep.
Go away from my window, believe at your own chosen speed.
A typical evening, I guess there would be sound check, and there would be me dealing with what kind of mood Bob was going to be in. I was already doing that, and when he was cheerful and up, it was just spectacular. And if he was dark, there wasn't any way to reach him.
But always strong.
Bob seemed to ignore whatever was coming towards him. He could literally, and I'd seen him do it, turn his back and play a whole song, play two songs, fiddling around with the equipment on the stage and never even look at the public, and it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference in the magnetic draw. It's as though the public wasn't even there. He's just going to do what he's going to do, and he has to change, and he has to keep moving, and he has to add this, and he has to crank the sound. And if you ever work with him, if he did the song the night before as a waltz, tonight he's going to do it in 2/4 time just to fuck you up, And so you just have, with somebody who moves like that, I now see it, that it's very unique, and it's admirable, and it's a pain in the ass if you're trying to work with him. Or it's a pain in the ass if you're expecting something else from him.
If everybody really listened to his own conscience and really acted upon what he thought was right and wrong.
First of all, Joan Baez is she's a hottie. She is so gorgeous. And I feel like, okay, that's not the most flattering pose. Nor is that one. Stop it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Miss Baez. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. She is gorgeous. And seeing how she conducts herself back, when she was younger is also really fascinating to see. She carries herself so well. What she's saying about him, it's interesting because it's the same thing with his music. I know we're talking about his music, but she's also talking about his performance style and how he acts when, he's doing a live performance, and his kind of steadfastness or like his stubbornness with how he wants to do his his performances. And I think that translates in the music because he was not compromising for anybody. He was going to be himself. And I think that is a part of what makes Bob Dylan special. I definitely see why that would be upsetting for her. Not just because they were performing together, but also like romantically, like, can we just kind of work together here? Can we like be on the same page? I totally get it. But you know, to me, I find it great, you know, because then that means because he's doing everything just right and like just so in the way that feels right to him, you know that you're getting the best of Bob when he's performing. I hope. Because she was saying that like sometimes it's like the crowd wasn't there, but it's because he's fixated on the art, not because he wants to dismiss the crowd. You know, he wants to get the best out, is what I'm thinking, is what I'm getting from it. If I'm getting it wrong, you let me know.
Always strong. Bob,
Okay.
It's very unique and it's admirable, and it's a pain in the ass if you're trying to work with him. Or it's a pain in the ass if you're expecting something else from him.
If everybody really listened to his own conscience and really acted upon what he thought was right and wrong, rather than being so hopelessly passive, which I think just about everybody is, I think it's probably the main disease, is the passivity, where we will listen to whatever anybody else says. It's daddy and mommy and school teacher and Sunday school teacher and president. Is right and wrong, rather than being so hopelessly passive, which I think just about everybody is. I think it's probably the main disease, is the passivity, where we will listen to whatever anybody else says. It's daddy and mommy and school teacher and Sunday school teacher and president.
And it's not innate for I don't think it's innate for humans to be passive. If you see a baby and the way babies act, you realize that they're very opinionated. They very much want to go after what interests them, regardless of what you're going to say, and they have no respect for authority. You know, they are going to make their minds up about what they're going to eat, what they're interested in. And as we grow, people tell us how we're supposed to behave and that we're supposed to have respect for authority and all these different things. It's how we're raising these children to be. It's what we're telling people they ought to respect and put authority on, or put, you know, what they should hold in high esteem. And I think this is a part of like what that person was saying in part D, is the fact that like he's speaking to these things that are like that people saw in society, and they felt that disquiet, and they didn't want to be passive. They wanted to speak up about the things that were bothering them. And so, you know, it's just interesting, her comment, because I think it's like multifaceted, the conversation for sure.
This is what the war in Vietnam is all about. The old and the very young. The Marines have burned this old couple's cottage because fire was coming from here.
The day's operation burned down 150 houses, wounded 3 women, killed 1 baby, wounded 1 Marine, and netted these 4 prisoners.
They're
4
so
old
thin.
men who could not answer questions put to them in English.
I was feeling this political pull very, very strongly, and I was thinking what the two of us could do together, you know, as far as any kind of movement and that. And so our tour had come to an end, and Bob said something like, hey, we ought to do Carnegie Hall or some big place like that. And I said, what are we going to do with it? And it was a pretty cold thing to say. But then we did talk about, you know, that he wanted to do his music and I wanted to do all this other stuff. And he said he didn't want to do all that other stuff, you know, so that's pretty clear. And I was disappointed.
Oh, my name, it is nothing. My age, it means less.
I mean, he'd given us, by that point, the greatest songs in our anti-war civil rights arsenals. 30-some years, whenever I'd go to a march or a sit-in or a lie-in or a be-in or a jail-in, people would say, is Bob coming? I'll say, he never comes, you moron. You know, when are you gonna get it? Never did, probably never will. And so I think he couldn't have written songs like the ones he wrote if he didn't feel. Generally, I think sort of for the underdog, but I think that he didn't want to have to be the guy people were going to go to. I mean, the times then were cut and dry. You were either for the war or you were against it. You either hated niggers or, you know, or you supported King. And you were forced to take a side.
You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows.
Words have their own meaning, they have different meanings, and words change their meaning. Words that were meant something 10 years ago don't mean that now, they mean something else.
Don't steal, don't live 20 years of schooling and it put you on.
I feel like I think like seeing those images reveals to me why why their expectations of him were set where they were and why they would have been disappointed that he didn't keep going. But I don't know. It's not like he gave up fighting or writing about the things. He still did. But also, like, I feel like there's need for relief and you can't just live in the same place. I've said this before, you know, so I'm not mad at his choice. I'm not. But I get why they would have felt, I don't know, disappointed, betrayed. I don't know.
You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows.
Words have their own meaning, they have different meanings, and words change their meaning. Words that were meant something 10 years ago don't mean that now, they mean something else.
Don't steal, don't live 20 years of schooling and it put you on a day shift.
Something during Homesick Blues, I mean, I don't think I would have wanted to do it all by myself. I thought I'd get more power out of it, you know, with a small group in back of me. I mean, it was electric, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's modernized just because it's electric, you know. It was, you know, like country music was electric too.
I ain't gonna work on Maggie's farm no more.
The Bring It All Back Home
So
session was really fun because it was this sort of spontaneous telepathic thing, you know, like he might have, you know, played through a song very briefly, and that was all the rehearsal or preparation that anyone had for the songs. Everyone was really good, everyone was really funky, you know, everyone had great time, and, you know, and everyone really got behind Bobby's songs. It was almost like just getting together and jamming without you know, without any mandate or any charts or anything.
I was riding on the Mayflower when I thought I spied some land.
He was playing all by himself at first, and then he stopped and everybody laughed. And then 2 seconds later, he started it again and everybody came in and just bang like gangbusters.
I was riding on the Mayflower when I thought I spied some land. I yelled for Captain E-Reb, I have you understand. Who came running to the deck, said, boys, forget the whale. We're going over yonder, cut the engines, change the sails. Haul on the bowline, we sang that melody like all tough sailors do when they're far away at sea.
I mean, the whole culture has moved and changed. This is really what we're announcing. The entire culture, both in America and England, has changed. There's a whole new generation that has grown up. Everybody.
The people at the Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan know about this, do you think? Do they know that culture has changed, that there's a new generation?
Well, they have been in the foreground of showing all this new pop art themselves, you know. Warhol will be there in Albert Hall, and Warhol's on the walls of the Museum of Modern Art for the last 5 years.
But there were signs of new life, you know, of another generation picking up a revolution in consciousness, a bloodless revolution. You know, like the first revolution that never shed any blood. That was the important thing. I had just been kicked out of Cuba for just talking privately about Castro's persecution of gay people, and then went to Czechoslovakia, was elected King of May on May Day. A week later was kicked out by the Minister of Education and deported to London. And then I landed around the time of Dylan's concerts at Albert Hall. There was a very exciting scene back at the hotel. And Dylan was down the hall with the Beatles. Then a message came that I was supposed to come in there. So I came into the room, and everybody was sitting there totally stone cold, silent, frozen, paranoid. Not quite knowing my place, knowing Bob, I sat down on the side of his armchair. John Lennon said snidely, "Why don't you sit a little closer?" And I suddenly realized they were just so naive. They were young. So actually, I fell over laughing onto John's lap, looking up at him, and asked him, "Do you ever read William Blake?" He said, "Never heard of him." And his wife said, "Oh, John, stop lying." Then everybody began laughing, and then the scene sort of broke up. The ice was broken. It struck me as funny that these guys at the summit of power, spiritual power, musical power, world fame, 65, June, were so unsure of their minds and speech.
It interests me just to watch.
I don't know. That's so interesting. This is such an insightful documentary. The commentary and things like that, because he would have gone around and seen so much. So, he's looking at things through a different lens, but at the end of the day, they're still just boys. I don't care if they're 25 or 26, like they're still boys, and they've just started living life, And one of the things I kept on thinking as I was looking at just, thinking about Joan's comment and the other gentleman is just, at the end of the day, it's your life that you're living. You're not living anybody else's life. It's very important that you don't do that and that you live for yourself, because otherwise you're going to get older and look back at your life and be upset and be miserable and probably make other people miserable because you lived your life for them, So I'm very proud of him for deciding to live his own life. But these boys, no matter what they put in their music, somebody and I were talking once about, how someone had said that their poems are smarter than they are. Because, and this is the thing I find interesting about music and poetry too, is, music is so powerful because I think musicians harness all that they have within them, their experience, their knowledge, their perceptions, all of this, and they try to, it's like a concentrated version of themselves and their beliefs or their opinions or their humor or something, and they're sharing that with you. It's not all of them, it's just a part of them. So to assume that I know Bob Dylan or any other artist because I've listened to 5 of their albums or something, I would be very wrong. But I have to watch things like this. I have to see the interviews and the photos and the goofing off and all of these different things to have a holistic picture of who this person is. And so, these stories are interesting, and I'm not surprised. They were still boys. They were still growing and maturing. Of course they're unsure. Certainty, what is that? What is certainty? It's, as he said, like in part B, the mistake you make is to think you are where you at when you've arrived where you're at. Why does he speak like that? But yeah, thinking you've arrived, you're always becoming, So it's really interesting. Really, really great.
And speech.
It interests me just to watch Dylan. I could sort of see that things that he did and said were interesting to me. And I didn't know why. And so that got interesting to me. I could sort of see that things that he did and said were interesting to me. And I didn't know why. And so that got me hooked on making a movie. When we go into a town, there'd be no sign. and there'd be people kind of just hanging out at the steps waiting for him to, you know, and not waiting to crowd around or see him or get his autograph, just waiting for him. And it gave you a feeling that there was some substance that you had to really see through, that you weren't going to find out about this quickly, but you had to kind of see it the way they did.
In the dime stores and bus stations.
We showed him the first rough cut. What he saw must have made him look like he was bare bones. And I think that was a big shock to him. But then he saw, I think the second night, he saw that it was total theater. It didn't matter. He was like an actor, and he suddenly had reinvented himself as the actor within this movie, and then it was okay. That's what he's good at, is getting used to the way things are. I mean, he understands that time changes everything.
They didn't like places. They didn't have to stop filming. If you ran, they ran. If you went into a room, they went into the room. You know, at a certain point, you just became oblivious to that.
Yeah, like a shadow that one is. Your shades are good.
I was young, and I had expectations and wanted to be where the action was. And I should not have been there at that time. Everybody was having a wonderful time, and they were all smashing things up in the hotel room, and I was this weird square over in my room who didn't do all that stuff. I was very critical of everybody who did, and wanted my time with Bob because I thought he was a special friend. And he moved on. And it was awful. I mean, it just hurt like hell. I assumed that since I'd invited him on the stage in the States, he would invite me on the stage there. He had no intention of doing that. He was ready to have that whole stage all to himself. That's what I'd say. He didn't want anybody competing with it. That's as close as I can get.
You know,
have you guys not
it was
talked?
probably a stupid thing to do, but not letting her play. But you can't be wise and in love at the same time. So I hope she'd see the light sooner or later on that.
Bob is one.
Guys. Oh my God. I wasn't expecting all this relationship drama. Oh my God. No, man. You guys need to go to couples counseling. You need to talk. She's being so very honest about her feelings. He hurt her. He broke her heart. Oh my God. He broke her heart. Oh, Joan, I'm so sorry. I don't know if the truth is that you shouldn't have been there. I mean, I guess that's her own reflection, and she's allowed to reflect and see what she wished she would have done better in life, which is totally fine. But you're going to be in those places, man. That's life. That's life. Wow. He really hurt her. Oh my gosh. I want to cry for you, girl. Osh. The man say you can't be wise and in love at the same time. Oh my God. Joan.
He didn't want anybody competing with it. That's as close as I can get.
You know, it was probably a stupid thing to do, but
it was
not
a
letting her
stupid
play.
thing.
But you can't be wise and in love at the same time. So I hope she'd see the light sooner or later on that.
Nah, man.
Bob is one of the most complex human beings I've ever met, and I think at first I really tried to figure this guy out. No, I gave it up, and so I don't know. I don't know what he thought about. All I know is what he gave us.
A crash on the highway.
Oh my gosh. Oh, first of all, he was tripping for that, in my opinion. Like he could have brought his girl on stage. Like I don't know how big Joan Baez was back in the day, but I don't think he needed to worry at all about any sort of competition because, you're Bob Dylan. Like, have you seen the things that you've created? Like, give your girl some room to perform and, remember she cursed out that person at the hotel for you and you went upstairs and wrote when the ship comes in? How could you? No. I'm hurt. I'm hurt. He shouldn't have done that. That wasn't nice.
What he thought about. All I know is what he gave us.
A crash on the highway through a car into a
Wait, I want to hear something that she said again. Because she's...
Bob is one of the most complex human beings
He
I've
is
ever met.
complex, that's true.
I think at first I really tried to figure this guy out. No, I gave it up, and so I don't know. I don't know what he thought about. All I know is what he gave us.
But you guys are also very young. You're very young, and like, he was learning himself, and like trying to learn another person is a lot of work for like a kid. And like, you guys are just like all of a sudden catapulted into all this fame and renown and doing all this important work. Like, it was a very difficult task. Like, you guys were just too smart and doing too much. To be young and in love.
On the highway through a car into a field. Turn, turn, turn again.
Girl, she can't sing
Four
right.
people were killed with him at the wheel. Turn, turn to the rain and the wind.
The poetry, it tumbles up, and I watched him write a typewriter or writing. It's done.
Their love is just a four-letter word.
I never finished that song. Did I? Huh? No, I never finished it.
Oh, God. You finished it about 8 different ways.
Yeah.
I stole four-letter word. I took that and disappeared with it and sang it, and I think the next Bob knew about it. He heard it on the radio. I was with him and he heard it on the radio and he was listening. He said, That's a great song. That's a great song. He didn't remember it. He'd written it. I said, yeah, you wrote it, you dope.
Strange it is to be beside
Good
you
job.
many years of tables turned.
I'm proud of her for having done that. You wanna not bring me on stage? I'm gonna take your song and sing it. Oh my god. Their relationship was electric. I wish it could have been a fly on the wall. Oh my gosh. Ooh, spicy. Ooh. Ooh.
He'd written it. I said, yeah, you wrote it, you dope.
Strange it is to be beside you many years of tables turned. Probably not believe me if I told you all I've learned. And it is very, very weird indeed to hear words like forever, fleets of ships run through my mind. I cannot cheat. It's like looking into teacher's face complete. I can say nothing to you but repeat what I heard. That love is just a four-letter. Love is just a four-letter. Love is just a four-letter word.
I got a lot of respect for Joan Baez. She a gangsta. She a gangsta. She's a gangster for having stole that song. You know what I'm saying? Because she, like, heartbreak and all of this thing, and like how difficult the relationship was. Also, she just aged like fine when she just looks so good. Oh my gosh, guys, what comes next? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Let me find out. Oh yeah. Gosh, when the ship comes in. Ah, hilarious. Ooh, in order. Ooh, wait. What? This is not in order. Full album list. Okay. Radio times. Why, you guys? Fine. I'll agree to it, I guess. Okay, so we've done... Oh, Highway 61 revisited. Okay. All right, cool. So that's what we're gonna do soon. Highway 61 revisited. We'll probably watch Don't Look Back, unless the creator of this channel that has put No Direction Home into a playlist helps us digest it in some different way, because this is supposed to be like a no spoilers version, so that we can kind of digest parts of it as we go through the albums. So I'll update you guys on that. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with me. If you're still here, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for your patience. You know, I know I've been missing in action, you know, just like things, but yeah, I'm back now. Like I never left. So yeah, I'll see you soon for Highway 61 Revisited. I'm excited. You know, I really love watching these things because I feel like it helps me to so much more deeply appreciate the artist. Somebody was commenting on like Bob's relationship with women. I see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about. I feel like if he didn't have like relationship drama and like everything about him was like perfect and he was Prince Charming, I'd have a problem. At least there's something. At least there's something to be like, I don't like the fact that you did that to her. Because otherwise, what's with the perfection? What's with this unattainable human self that you've got going on? What about the rest of us? Telling me you do art and all. No, man, it's too much. It's too much. So at least this kind of somewhat levels the playing field. At one point, Bob was here. I was here. Now I'm here. Because I'm happy about it. Anyways, thanks again for being here. I shall see you soon for either parts of Don't Look Back or Highway 61 Revisited. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.